This is probably going to be one of those videos where I just talk about something that kind of bugs me with iRacing. I don't really have a script that I'm going off of, nor do I really have a plan for this type of thing. At the moment, I just can't sleep, and I have something on my mind regarding one part of iRacing. So this isn't really a rant, it's just more like my thoughts. But recently there was really good there's a really good forum thread by Tyson Miller, someone who's really good with the off-road trucks, so the Pro 2 and the Pro 4, and short course racing as well. And he was saying that it's in a pretty bad state, and I tend to agree. But I also want to say that dirt road as a whole on iRacing is in a pretty poor shape, and I honestly don't see uh, any light at the end of this proverbial tunnel. I'm not going to be attaching iRacing footage to this because I don't feel like taking out my wheel, so you're just going to have to deal with the Baja Edge of Control um, gameplay. I'm just riding around. I mean, this is a great game if you want to buy it, but anyways, that's kind of not it's kind of not the point here. Um, like I was saying, Dirt Road really feels like it's been neglected ever since launch, really. Um, I know that when you drive the series that has the least amount of people in it, it's gonna receive the least amount of love, and I can accept that. It's definitely not for everyone. It's a challenging discipline to learn, and especially to get good at. Um, I kind of consider myself a little bit of a poser in that regard because I'm only really good on one specific niche of dirt road and not dirt road as a whole. So I wouldn't really consider myself a representative of the dirt road community. But it definitely feels like um, you know, definitely feels like people's voices aren't heard within dirt road, and that updates to improve the racing of dirt road, especially at the rookie levels, is is at a it's only gonna happen if a staff member gets wind of it, or not really even gets wind of it, if a staff member feels like doing it, because there's just so few people doing dirt road that it honestly feels like iRacing uh, doesn't value their input, and it's really disheartening. And I'm sure iRacing, they want to make it the best, but the support just isn't there compared to something like GT3, to where, there'll be an issue with GT3 and it gets fixed within a week. But, you can bring up issues to iRacing regarding something on dirt road, and it can take well over a year or more for it to get fixed. Um, and it hurts as someone who's, poured lots of hours into dirt road, especially the Pro 2 Lite. I've submitted videos to iRacing staff regarding the corner cutting at Daytona Long, and it's still possible to do it the same corner cut since the track released. And, it took over 5 years for Phoenix to get a corner cut wall at the final hairpin, which is great. I'm glad that something happened, but it took 5 years. And part of me feels like I shouldn't really be complaining because I was the biggest whiner that Dirt Road, didn't get content. And then it got Wheatland, the Lucas Oil Speedway Dirt Road track, and the FAA Crosscut, which I think are two good pieces of content. but still just feels so shockingly barren on the dirt road side. And I understand that it's a niche discipline, and it'd be unfeasible for iRacing, especially with the low player base relative to something like sports car, or even dirt oval. Um, it's not conducive to, it doesn't. What I'm trying to say is that it doesn't make business sense for them to focus on it, but it it's in such a poor state that there's no reason to run it. Like, the pro trucks have an issue with contact where any contact causes aero damage that will put you seconds off the pace. And if you ever watch an AMSOIL race, these guys are making contact. There's fenders being pushed to quite absurd degrees, and they're still competitive. They're still racing each other. They're not falling 2 seconds off the pace because they had a incident. But we can't have that on iRacing because problems on dirt road only seem to get fixed, or features only seem to get implemented when a staff member wants it to. Like, we've been asking iRacing to increase the field size for rookie dirt road, like at Wild West, and we max field size is 8 cars. I understand that part of that is due to the constraints of the rallycross tracks on Pro 2 Lite, and that the field sizes for advanced Pro 2 Lite is bigger. But advanced Pro 2 Lite, it both isn't as often, um, and isn't as doesn't go official as often, and less people run it compared to rookie Pro 2 Lite. So Wild West, you have a 1.5 mile track. You have like a 1.5 mile track, and you can only get 6 cars to populate it because it went over the split limit. Uh, or worse, you get 10 people registered, and it's a 5 car race at Wild West, and it's it's demoralizing, really. And then you just have bad updates being made to it, and then being defended um, by iRacing because that's what they thought uh, is the right path forward, and not asking anyone about it. And this is obviously in regards to dirt ovals being added to the Pro 2 Lite schedule. And I personally wouldn't have minded that much if it counted towards dirt oval licenses, but it doesn't. It counts towards dirt road licenses. So on top of it being one just an utterly soulless, unenjoyable, I mean, dare I say, slop tier combination. You can't even run it correctly because iRacing wanted forced variety in the scheduling. I brought it up with iRacing. I said, "Hey, why is the dirt oval weeks for Pro 2 Lite? Why is it going under dirt oval licenses?" And they told me it's intentional because since it was rookie class, they didn't want to confuse people by having it count towards dirt oval, and that's really the only answer I got was that it was intentional. Kind of almost, I'm reading too far deep, but to me it felt a little bit like kind of a suck it up type of thing. Like, a this this is how it should be. You race rookies. Um, if you're looking for something better, you know, race a higher license class. And it's just, I don't know, it's, and then like I remember I brought it up with I believe it was Chris Leone on the forums, and I was like, hey, you know, this isn't really realistic at all. And I got told that essentially, you know, I don't know anything because in real life, in 2013, you know, Torque went to Eldora, but it was a massively different version of Eldora with with added dirt for jumps and stuff. Or Antigo, where part of it is a dirt oval, but it doesn't excuse adding, you know, completely unmodified dirt ovals to the schedule and calling it a day just for variety's sake, because there's no modifications to USA Dirt or Linear Dirt on the Pro 2 Light schedules. Um, and I don't think there's going to be any way to change it. You know, and one of my biggest worries is that as someone who really likes the Pro 2 Lights at rallycross tracks and thinks it's one of the most fun combos on iRacing, just in terms of like a concept, that soon that avenue is going to be closed to me because they're trying to, you know, get rid of it. We saw the beginning of it with them switching half the season to Wild West, which I think is fine. I mean, the car Pro 2 Light is designed for short course dirt road, but I think a lot of its identity as a series was, you know, formed with the rallycross tracks, and some of the best races have been on those rallycross tracks, and it really is a challenge. Um, and then they took two other rallycross weeks away to put a horrible dirt oval combo where it is, you know, where it's quite literally full throttle, lift a little bit on entrance, and then hug the bottom, and it's completely set by qualifying order unless you just smash a pass. And you know, not getting anything on the forums, you know, the devs don't read the dirt road forums. Barely anyone posts on there because it's a quite barren discipline. Um, it just makes it very bleak. You know, we don't have a pro series anymore for dirt road. At least not that I know of. I might be wrong on that regards, but I don't think we have a dirt road pro series. There's, you know, pro series for dirt oval, but you know, not dirt road. You know, the seems like the only thing that we can get is, you know, the Crandon Super Series or the Crandon Super Session, which, you know, is a very nice special event, which I've participated in the top split, not the broadcast one, but I've participated in top split Crandon Super Session and got my ass whooped. But I think it's a nice event, but you know, it leaves me wanting more with dirt road. And there's, you know, there's so many great facilities out there that I think are never going to be added to iRacing. Um, and I think that, you know, this is really a black pill video, honestly, but I think that dirt road has a higher chance of getting, you know, shelved as a discipline than anyone in the trophy trucks uh, having a variety filled schedule that makes sense. And I mean that honestly. That is a genuine worry of mine, that dirt road is just going to get shelved before, you know, we have 12 different layouts to run at. Because, I mean, what? We are, I believe, 6 years? Not 6 years, 7 or 8 years past the dirt update for iRacing. And all that we have for short course tracks is one track that closed down, and then I believe 3 more tracks. So we have 4 tracks in total. Actually, 5. Sorry, I remembered that. Lucas, so 5 tracks in total. and we still have to repeat them on the schedule because because there's just not enough, despite despite having more than enough time to do so. But I understand that dirt road is on the very bottom of the totem pole, and that as as people who participate in the least used discipline in iRacing, we're a minority. And I don't want to come off as like, I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, we're a minority, we're being persecuted. But I just want to be like, we're a very small minority of iRacing players. And it makes me feel like because of that, you don't get listened to. No. Your portion of the iRacing player base, doesn't it feels like iRacing, they wouldn't say this, but it feels like implicitly with just the lack of attention that it often receives, that your portion of the player base doesn't stand out enough to warrant um basic quality of life changes or basic race quality improvements. But we need to finally redevelop GT3 Aero every season because that's what everyone uses, and we need to be the best GT3 experience instead of the best all-around racing experience. And I understand that GT3 takes precedence. There's going to be so many more people doing that and gushing over a a new GT3 car, or a new track to use in the GT3 series, than, let's say, spending the time to fix the 2X's at Firebird, or fixing the Daytona Long corner cut, or removing the ovals from the Pro 2 Light schedule, or adding more rallycross tracks. I haven't really spoken a lot on rallycross, because it's not something that I do very often, but we, I shouldn't say we, the rallycross people very rarely receive any updates. The last piece of content that they got was Winton. I think that Winton is a great rallycross track, but you know, outside of that, the content's largely gotten stale for them. There's nothing new for them. They still have the same rallycross cars from like 2019, I believe, and I know that's mostly largely in part due to uh, the rallycross in real life, going on hiatus due to funding shortages, the collapse of GRC, um, but it just feels like it just it just feels like we're hung out to dry. Like, just dirt road in general is hung out to dry. And I know that, people are going to see this and they're going to think that, I'm a whiny baby for wanting more, when we literally just got Lucas Oil and Winton IRX in the cross carts. But it's just, the thing is that that was almost 4 years in the making for content. And I believe it was 3.5 years since the last Rallycross layout. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, sometimes it just feels like it was a stopgap measure to kind of, get, hold Dirt Road over for a year or two so they can focus on everything else. So, Dirt Road doesn't completely die, and we're just on life support. Wow, this video is already reaching out to almost 20 minutes of me just driving around Lake Powell in Baja Edge Control and ranting. Not really ranting, just kind of about um, venting about my thoughts on iRacing Dirt Road. But yeah, I guess to wrap this up, my feelings is that it often feels like with iRacing Dirt Road that we are the redheaded stepchild in terms of the racing discipline, and it often feels like we're just left out to dry, despite despite the leaps and bounds that iRacing has made. Uh, we're still 2, 3 steps behind, and we'll never be uh, we'll never really be truly cared for like GT3 and other pop and other popular racing series and disciplines are, and it sucks, and it's very, very demoralizing. But yeah, I think that'll probably wrap it up for this video. Hope you enjoyed me kind of ranting about problems that don't really affect anyone but myself. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you sometime soon.